Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. And today we're going to be covering a runner. We're going to be covering somebody who is a zombie for sure. As you guys know, I use The Last of Us Zombies on this channel to describe the state of war of anti-FA and of the E fall by the letter D world in general. So it's not just fat people, it's also it's all sizes. Okay, I'll put it to you that way. But we talk a lot on this channel, especially this year, about how they all work together. So this person is a runner. So what is a runner? A runner is somebody who's stage 1. It's somebody that doesn't have the issue. They're either subclinical, they're overly empathetic, and they still have some beliefs. I call it the toxic ritualistic as well on this channel. So they have some toxic ritualistic beliefs, aka E fall by the letter D, beliefs. I have to censor so much of what I say because YouTube is not okay with anything. So yeah. So I'm sorry if it's confusing, but if this does resonate, please do subscribe. We'd love to have you in the fight against all this BS. So let's go ahead and get it started. I'm going to just have her say all the talking points. This is a very, very, very typical runner. This is somebody who I would say has basically zero original thought. So this is a super, super typical take. So I thought it was good to just kind of cover your basic runner. So let's go.
You were only skinny because of your DNA, and yet when a lot of you see fat people, you assume, oh, they must be overeating. They must be eating junk food all day. Consider this. Maybe everybody's bodies are different, and other people's regular weight might just be higher than yours. Obviously, what other people eat is none of your business, and I don't believe in moralizing food, but perhaps if you need to, to be a certain weight, your body just isn't supposed to be that weight. A lot of you...
Okay. So see? Do these things sound typical? Does it sound typical to you? If so, then you know what I'm talking about. These are the types of beliefs that a lot of people have that don't have an E fall by the letter D. So they're very common. So a lot of times what you'll see with runners is they appeal to like the diversity of bodies argument. They'll appeal to sort of pseudo-libertarian values. So they'll be like, they're just trying to survive. They're just existing. So leave them alone. That's very pseudo-libertarian thing. It's why would anyone care? Why should you care? It's all these kind of arguments. She's really leaning into the diversity of bodies type of mindset, as well as the biggest one, which this is a zombie's favorite lie. It is the weight is genetic. So the weight is genetic, TR folklore, E fall by letter D folklore, right? It's one of the most famous TR concepts. The idea that you are the size you are purely due to genetics, and that your behavior has zero effect on it at all. And then they'll say, well, it's not that. It has some effect, but they act like it has zero. They mean zero. They're lying to you. They say it, but they mean zero. Or they'll be like, it has only 10% of an effect. No. Your behavior has much more of an effect on your size. That is literally the whole thing of the TR. It's how these things exist. So it's a complete gaslight, but it's meant to keep people that are not within the issue dumb and ignorant. So if you believe that weight is genetic, I am calling you ignorant. You are. You've been manipulated. I'm not saying that to be like a total bitch. I'm saying that to let you know that you have been brainwashed by somebody with an E fall by letter D to believe that weight is genetic. And yes, they are in institutions. I don't want to hear that. Well, this scientist said that. Yeah. And they have it too, typically. Or the studies are flawed because there's an agenda. And then people hear me say that and they're like, oh my gosh, you're talking about that. No. Shut up. I'm talking about people that have this issue. They will lie, twist, everything, gaslight constantly. Of course they would manipulate a study. Of course they would. Why? Because they're mentally ill and they're delusional. And you need to understand what we're dealing with. You think that these people are totally sane. I have so many issues with people projecting sanity onto people with EFOB by the letter D. They are not sane. They're not. They are delulu, out of this world, on another planet, in another world. They lie to you. They lie to themselves at times, especially within bingo, which replace the O with an E. They will lie to themselves so much that they don't even know that they have a problem because there's such a dissociative aspect. There's a major dissociation aspect within bingo that is, I think, even worse than the other ones. So sometimes somebody that has that problem, so a fat person that has that problem, they will be delusional about the fact that they have an EFOB by letter D. They will think they have a completely different one. Often you'll hear them say they're atypical. No, they have bingo. There's a reductive side to bingo too that's never talked about. Or they'll say, I could never have that. Or, of course I don't have that. I'm big. So that's what you typically get. And again, you have people, you have zombies all over. So even people that aren't even in it, they will be inclined to lie too. Because they're like, oh, somebody in my family was big, so I have to justify how they are, or I have to do this or that or the other. I was raised that way, or I was raised in it, so I have to justify it, or I don't want to be mean, so I can just fudge the numbers a little bit here or there. Especially with psychological studies, I'm not trying to be like a total bitch, but I studied psychology in school. It is a soft science. I will put it to you that way. It is like kinetic sand, okay? And people don't want to hear that, but I have to talk about it because that's why it's so bad. That's why you believe weight is genetic. You should never believe that. If you believe that, you are delusional. You are delusional when it comes to that one belief. And if you were to have more of those types of beliefs, then that could lead to a toxic ritualistic issue. Then you could actually become clinically diagnosable if you believed enough of the bullshit. You probably just don't believe enough of it. But I'm here to tell you, weight is genetic is bullshit. It's trash. Throw it in the trash. Forget it. Forget it. And then I almost can hear zombies. I can hear them in my head sometimes when I talk on here. They're going to be like, well, no, this and that. And look, you're talking to somebody. I've lost like 165 pounds, kept off most of it. You know, I started losing it in 2022. So when I left the EFOB by the letter D, I started downsizing and weight normalizing. And every pound that I couldn't find stayed off like magic. Why? Because I wasn't in the DIS order anymore. So a lot of what you're thinking is genetics is actually DIS ordered, which there is a genetic component to that. But you see how it's not exactly the same? And how is it genetic? You inherit neuroticism from your parents. And with trauma or enough physical stress, that neuroticism can be turned onto the body and you can create this toxic ritualistic pattern, or you can basically go into it as a coping mechanism. That's how it's genetic. It's super indirect. But obesity in and of itself, weight in and of itself, no, it's not. Height is genetic. Other differences are genetic, not weight. Your weight changes all the time. Your weight changes every day. Are your genes changing every day? They say, well, it's within a certain range. Okay, so my range is what, 160 pounds then? Or Or am I a freak of nature to you? Zombie. What's the range? Oh, well, 3 to 5 years. Okay, well, 2022 was 4 years ago. I started in August of 2022. So whatever poundage that I can't find since then should be magically coming back on already. Well, they're like, well, you got 1 more year. Okay, hold your breath. I guess, hold it. I want to see you hold your breath for me to upsize in a year. I just can't. I don't have the patience for the zombie bullshit anymore. I just don't.
You were only skinny because of your DNA.
I went on for way too long about that. But no, weight is not genetic. Period. It is a choice. Period. Your weight is a choice. If you are obese, it is a choice. And by the same token, if you are under, that is also a choice. Unless if you do not have the money to get food. So, no. No. And then people will be like, it's not a choice, or it's more complicated than that. It's this, it's that. I didn't say it was complicated or not. I said it's a choice. Is every single choice simple? No, it's not. But it's still a choice. You're still choosing it. Again, those kind of excuses, it's not going to work on this channel. We really do the work here. We're serious here. Okay? I'm not here to placate you. I'm not here to reinforce your DIS order. I'm not doing it. I've said it many times. I'm not here to reinforce a DIS order of somebody in your life. I'm not here to make you comfortable. I'm here to push change. We're going to change. We're going to do the work here. We're not going to sit here and I don't even know what the hell you guys are expecting. You expect me to just dead ass lie to you and tell you weight is genetic? I'm not going to do that. There's plenty of people that will lie. She's lying to you now. Do you want to hear her? Because it's not going to happen here. It's not going to happen with me. And I don't care if you like me or not. That's one of the beautiful things about not being a people pleaser. I'm not. I'm an activist. Activists aren't people pleasers. Some of y'all are dumb. Okay, let's continue.
And yet when a lot of you see fat people, you assume, oh, they must be overeating.
Because they are. Because there's no osmosis, magic, mysticism. So this is very, 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 very E followed by the letter D. Come on, you guys. Please tell me you recognize that. Somebody lying about how much they've consumed or not. Please tell me you recognize that as DIS ordered. Please. Come on, zombies. Come on. You gotta see that one. That's obvious. Well, it's only it only matters if they're skinny. Oh, but you're sitting here telling me that anybody can have atypical at the same time. You guys need to pick a narrative. So for my audience and for my fireflies in the audience, people that are fighting zombies, I need you to understand that this is what you're going to deal with. These types of arguments, these types of conflicting statements, and there's quite a few numbers with runners. There's a lot of them. So I don't know if there's as much on my channel or whatever, but if you comment on Instagram or you do anything, if you speak in public, there might be a runner that says something to you. Okay? There's a lot of them. That's the biggest number of zombie. And they really are it's reasonable. It's this, it's that. It's not reasonable. It's not. So don't fall for it. And it's okay to push back against it. Now, they're not going to be within the DIS order, so they're going to sound more logical than the other types of zombies. But it doesn't matter. They're still wrong. So, which some of you guys might have a softer approach. Some of you guys might have a harsher approach. Again, my approach in general is very mid. So if you see me as super harsh, you're probably more sensitive. If you see me as super soft, you're probably tougher. Because the truth is, I'm very mid when it comes to this stuff. So I'm not calling her horrible, dumb, whatever. But I am saying if you believe weight is genetic, you are ignorant. I'm going to say it. It's the truth. It's just the truth. I'm not saying you're a horrible person. Now, if you fight for that belief, then it's a little bit like, why? That's kind of dumb. You see? Then I have questions about you. Then I'm like, but I can pretty much say you're probably just a zombie at that point. Because it doesn't make any sense. Are your genes changing every day? Did my genes change after losing 160? Did they change? You guys, wait, you gotta hold your breath. One more year. One more. Hold your breath.
They must be eating junk food all day. Consider this.
I don't know about that. They could be, but it depends on how big they are. If we're gonna be real about it. If you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. So again, it's if somebody is very, very, very big, then there's probably a lot of processed foods just because it is difficult to get so many calories in if it's not highly processed because it could just be a lot of chewing, it's a lot of fiber, right? There's a lot of bulk to it. It's just certain foods are more satiating too than others. So it's like if you're not having anything processed, you could still overdo it. But it's harder to overdo it basically for most people, especially for a long time. If you have nutrient deficiencies though, you can. I like to bring up examples of specific diets. Like you can upsize being carnivore, you can upsize being vegan, right? Totally can. So calories, caloric realism is a thing. Sorry, I'm nervous about saying that word because freaking YouTube and freaking Nita. Nita is trying to censor us. So I get nervous about saying that word. That's why I sound like that. So I have to fight this, like talking in a weird language. It's so, oh my gosh, like the world we live in. That type of stuff drives me nuts. But I'm trying to see the positive side of life. I do feel another Kesha era video coming soon that talks about that. But I have to work on it more myself because it's frustrating. Some of this is frustrating. I feel like you guys get it though. At least my viewers do.
Maybe everybody's bodies are different and other people's regular weight might just be higher than yours.
So this is a lot of like I said, the body diversity aspect. This has really been taken over by obesity. Compulsive Rambler just did a video really recently about this, that obesity overtook this conversation rather than talking about like specific genetic differences that we can't even see if we're so huge. Like, for example, I understand now that I have a small frame, which I had no idea because I was big. So that means that even though, like, at least as far as my overall vanity goals and probably even some comfortability, I have to downsize quite a bit more to get to where I want to be, but I need to do it very body comp friendly, so it needs to be very slow. But that number is lower than I originally thought because my frame is narrow or small. I have a small frame. So it's like, even though I still have some lbs to go as far as my personal goals, I'm approaching a medium in shirts now, and I'm approaching a small in shorts. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's kind of mind-blowing to me. But again, that process is going to be very, very glacial, very slow. Like it could take like 2 years or something. It's going to be a minute. So I'm not expecting to like be totally radical, or have a huge amount of weight downsizing this year, because this year is mostly body comp, so most of the time I'm staying the same as far as weight because I'm really trying to build muscle. But yeah, it just goes to show the frame size, right? And as soon as or as I downsize still, even though it's slow, I have to like figure out how to dress and stuff because my body's different than I thought it was. Like it's very, I have a small frame. So it's like, oh, I have to think about that kind of stuff. So in that sense, yeah, there's going to be some people that have big frames or wide frames, I guess you could say, narrow/wide framed. People that have actually big bones or smaller bones, that does exist. There's also like body comp. So even within thinness, which is what I would consider average weight, and I mean human average, not average in the US, because but I'm talking like human genome average, like what we're intended to weigh. Um, Within, that range, I call that thin on the channel. If I want to talk somebody who's skinny, I'll say skinny, right? But thin is more like average. Within that, there's a whole umbrella. There's people who are in shape, there's people who are skinny fat, there's people who are skinny, there's people who are thick, kind of on the thicker side. That's a lot of people. So within that, yeah, I agree. There is body diversity, and that's fine, but they never disclaim that. So they include somebody who's 300 pounds as a woman in that, or they include a man who's 400 pounds in that. No. Or somebody who is very under. No. But she's sure to shame that side. But she just wants people to be as big as possible. It's very odd because it's so lopsided, right? It's like, why do we only consider being under bad but not over? It's odd. It's very odd and it's very illogical.
Obviously, what other people eat is none of your business.
There's the libertarian, the pseudo libertarian argumentation. What other people eat is none of your business. Da, da, da. I can agree with that to a certain extent, but I think weight is not something that just happens in a day. So if it gets to be like a certain point, whether somebody's over or under, it's like I do kind of feel like there has to be some kind of concern there, a little bit. Because if somebody, like a lot of libertarian values, or again, I don't think she's actually using that, but I'll put it in quotes. Libertarian values, they don't understand that people can be insane. They don't understand that somebody who's within E fall by letter D is not sane. They're not making rational decisions in a way that you would. So a lot of times runners, they project sanity onto somebody who's hugely fat. And somebody could be really in the throes of the toxic ritualistic. It's the same thing if somebody's super under. They could be a little nutty, you know? So it means like you can't reinforce it. You can't tell them it's okay. I'm never one to advocate for increasing anxiety over the issue or for creating fighting over the issue. It doesn't typically work, in my opinion, especially if somebody's severe or like guilting and all that stuff. It doesn't work. Zombies don't have, I almost said they don't have emotions. That's not true. They don't have human emotion, I guess I could say. You experience things like shame and guilt and emotion and pride and all these things. It all gets all weird in a zombie brain, in an E fall by letter D zombie mind. They're different. You have to think of the person as almost like reptilian or something, or like it's like you're a little colder or a little bit spazzy. It's weird. So it's like you're thinking that they're just like you, or they're like, oh, this human has normal human emotions like I do. And it's like, and I'm telling you, no, they're a zombie. So they're not making rational choices about consumption. So you're assuming and you're projecting sanity onto that person when they're not. That's the problem with the performative libertarian value of what other people eat is none of your business. It's similar to saying like people who unalive themselves, that's none of my business. It's like, are they really making that decision rationally though? You know? I'm just saying. I would argue no.
And I don't believe in moralizing food.
Okay. So I don't know what the moralizing argument, it's very odd to me. It's just super extra, like beyond, because it comes from like diet culture topics and stuff, which typically when people are saying that's good or bad, it usually has to do with downsizing in a vanity context, which is like pretty niche, honestly, in today's American age, like where we're at in the US right now. Most people are not vanity downsizing. There's a lot of people on Instagram that are doing that. I'm doing that, but who the hell else is? It's not that common. It might be common in Gen Z, but I can assure you, 30s and above, it's like rare. Usually people are like obese. That's not vanity downsizing. Usually people are smo. That's not vanity downsizing, right? Like it's like you are doing it for your health typically. So, and you don't typically have to make the cottage cheese choice every time. But that's what those conversations are about typically when you're saying something is good or bad. Now, there can be like healthy and unhealthy, which that's different. But I would just say there's nutrient dense and nutrient deficient. And I always tell you guys, if you're coming from a downsizing perspective, everything you take in should give you either energy or nutrition, and ideally both. But sometimes you could have something like a black coffee, and that could give you energy, but it doesn't have tons of nutrition in it. You see? Or like in my case, there were times where I would have sugar to get energy within a cow def, and it worked for me, but it's not nutrient dense because it was Mike and Ike's, you know? But everybody has their little thing that they do, but it better be energizing. That was my point when I talk about it, because it's not real food. I don't eat them anymore, really, because I don't have to. I'm not, you know, I'm in a very slight cow def. I don't need to do all that. So I don't really have any of that. I'm just trying to have real food now because I'm not in the thick of it, you know, anymore. So I'm just like, I do some diet culture things. Like I still like to have my medium eggs for dinner and stuff like that. I did have cottage cheese yesterday, you know, but it's like, I'm not going to tell everybody they have to do that. It's like, I'm just trying to manage my, gosh, I feel like I can't say anything. I'm trying to manage my hunger, and then I'm trying to, so basically having things that are very satiating because I am still in that slight cow def, and then I'm dealing with food noise a little bit because I'm really working on being totally like, I don't want to say it's dopamine cleanse, but a little bit, put to you that way. So I'm not like leaning on anything for dopamine. So like specifically, I'm not having, I'll just tell you because I don't give a fuck. I think that I've made that clear with the way I've talked in this video. Specifically, I'm talking about I'm keeping my caffeine at a very reasonable level. And then I quit corn. So those were the things that I did. And then I don't have like candies and stuff. I'm trying to avoid the dyes and stuff because they make me feel very low dough. So it's like I haven't really had those all year, but they did give me like a stimulation effect, like the dyes. So I'm like, I have mixed complicated feelings on that, but it made me very like unfocused and stuff. So anyways, the point is I'm not doing I'm not doing the dyes, so I don't need to do the other stuff, right? To keep my dopamine higher. So now I can just be like bleh, you know? And because of that, I have food noise, is my point. Okay. So you put it all together, I got a little food noisy. We love the solstice too. I love the heat. It's hot here, the sun. It does speed up the metabolism a bit. And I am out in the heat a lot. So it's stimulating, you know? So it's like, it kind of makes I think when there's extreme weather, your body does burn more. So it can make even a slight death a little bit more, you see? So all that together, but I'm still keeping off of everything because I want to stay normalized. I want my dopamine system to heal and just be like bleh, you know, normal. So anyways, that's why I'm having cottage cheese and eggs, but I don't tell you you have to. Now, I think there's a difference between moralizing and caring about what other people eat and whatever, and like policing what everybody does all the time. Again, that's a bit ridiculous too, right? But anyways, I digress.
But perhaps if you need to like yourself,
Crap, I'm gonna have to edit that now.
in order to be a certain weight, your body just isn't supposed to be that weight.
So I feel like you need to be really specific about that kind of thing. Because when you're coming from super morbid obesity, for example, so somebody's like 400 pounds, okay? You have extreme hunger at that size. So if you say that to somebody who's 400 pounds, they're going to think that they should be that big. So it doesn't work. You're being delusional. You're being idealistic. You're being stupid. You're actually ignorant. So it's like hunger, it's different. Like when you are bigger, you feel it more. I'll put it to you that way. And I tried to explain too that even when you're in class 1 obesity, the obesity in and of itself will give you food noise because it affects dopamine signaling. So it's like you have to acknowledge those things. And for anybody who's listening for advice, you have to figure out what is physical hunger. Physical hunger is different than like what I had too, which was like hypothyroid hunger, which is different. That usually is like a low energy type of hunger. Or food noise, which is like psychological or dopamine related. So you have to like figure out what is what. And a lot of it is just getting body awareness and like living in your body and not being a zombie anymore, you know? So I know it's a big ask, but I'm still going to ask it of you. And we do not cater to zombies on this channel. We do not reinforce anything, period. No. Okay? So I think that that's everything.
A lot of you
Yeah. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.